Hi there. I just made 5 videos and I'm going to try to make one video that's super short with all of the stuff. So make sure you have a GitHub account. Make sure you have GitHub Desktop. Make sure you have Visual Studio Code. And here we go. So in GitHub Desktop, you want to make a new repository. I have a different home screen, but I'll just go to my repositories. Okay, so repositories. You want a very special repository. It must be named your username. So my username is Alana Reese. It's right there. It's got to be identical to that. alanareese.github.io. It must be your username.github.io. I can't make it because it already exists, but that's what you need. You don't need any of this other stuff. Click Create Repository. It will create one for you. I'm going to back out of this. And you'll have something like this, although it'll say a bunch of words, but it should be like pretty empty. And then you're going to go to GitHub Desktop. And you're going to say clone a repository. If you don't have this screen, you can go to File, Clone Repository, and then you want to find that repository on your GitHub account. I have a million, so I'm going to just search in here. As you can see, I've done this demo a couple times. GitHub, oh, it's the first one, right? Then you want to choose where you want it. I have made a folder called Sites. It's in like Users, Alana, Sites, but a lot of people like it on the desktop. Wherever you want it, I don't care. So you could say desktop. You could make a folder on your desktop called DES341 and then clone it there, wherever you want it. I want mine to go here. And so I'm going to just keep it as it is, and I'm going to say clone. What this does is, come on. Oh, it contains files, right? Oh, hold please. Okay, I'm back. I had to delete a folder. Cool. So I want this to go here. I'm going to hit clone. It is going to basically connect these folders. So the one on github.com and the one on my computer are now like interlinked. I can open this in Visual Studio Code, or if it doesn't say Visual Studio Code, you can change it in your preferences here. But I'm going to say open in Visual Studio Code. Oh, this is a mess. I'll just close this one. So here's what I got. There is a welcome file. I'm going to get rid of my face. There's a welcome file. See, it's just a little file. Close that. And then here is your repository. It doesn't have anything in it, but this is an empty folder. Let's make an index.html. Index.html. This is going to be your main page for your site. Let's just type in hello world. And I want you to install a extension. It is under this little icon. It is called Live Server. It's this one by Ritwick Day. So click install. It will install the extension, and then go under manage extension settings and make sure Chrome is your default browser. Hopefully you have it installed. If not, please do that. Okay, and then you can close that. Close this because it's already installed. If it says uninstall, it's installed. And then it gives you a cool little button down here to start a server on your own computer. So I could open this file in a browser. Open new tab. I can say file open. I could go to that folder. Oh, good. I'm already there. I could open the index page and there it would be. But if I made changes, I'd have to like hit refresh. I don't want to do that. If I use the server, then I just click it once. It opens a thing. So this number is your local computer, and then this is the port number. So you could have like multiple servers running if you wanted, but this is on your computer. And whenever you make a change, it'll just automatically update. And see down here, it says port 5500. That means you're already running a server. you can close it. Like, let's say you like accidentally close this tab. You could just close this and then restart it and it'll open a tab for you. Cool. All right. So that was like not really HTML. Let's make some real HTML. So there's a thing built into Visual Studio Code called Emmet. It helps you finish code. It's like a code completer. So if I type in exclamation point, this little thing pops up. I can either hit enter or I can click on it. And look at that, boilerplate HTML. This tells the browser, hey, I'm going to give you some HTML. This says the HTML is going to start here. Also, it's in the language of English, and it's going to close here. This is your header. It has all kind of like your gobbledygook stuff. The title is like what you see in the tab. So if we look here, it doesn't even, oh, wait, refresh. It says document. We can change it to Alana's website. Save that. And now it says Alana's website. So that's the tab. Quickly, under File, make sure you have autosave with a check in front of it. That's going to make sure that you don't have to worry about saving your files. Cool. I just realized extensions are still open. How do I get back to the files? You just go back up. This left side is like the main nav, and you can just click on Explorer, and there's your files. Okay, index. Let's talk about HTML tags. They all start with angle brackets, and most tags have this format where it's like angle bracket, the name of the tag, and then closing angle bracket, like / blah, 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 closing tag. And then the stuff in the middle is going to be the text that you want to display as a header 1 text. So header 1 is like the largest of the header sizes that come built into HTML. So I'm going to say, welcome to my page. I get this. I can do a header 2. Just make a bunch. Header 3. And it goes on and on till header 6. It's nice here. It's noise here. Enjoy. So HTML built in has different sizes for the headers. So there's H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. Then for more text fun, there's the paragraph. So this is a bunch of words in a sentence or two, right? So here's a paragraph. It looks like basic text. If you have text that has like line breaks in it, you want to make sure that they're all in their own separate paragraphs, because you can control the margin and padding better. Cool trick. If I just type in the word lorem and then some number without having a space in there, so 10, I will get 10 words of lorem ipsum text. If I type in lorem 50, the lorem, that's not going to work. I probably have to read. Hang on, let me delete this. Lorem 50. I will get 50. I can do a 5,000 if I want. But that is a cool little extra trick. So there's my second paragraph. Let's do a link. So a link is an A tag. So the base of the tag is A, but you need an attribute. And the attribute that you want is href. And we could link to another page. Like, let's say we have an about page. We could link to it. As long as it was in the same base folder as this index, it would find it. If we want to link to somewhere outside, I can say HTTP. So I'm using the Hypertext Transfer Protocol to go to the internet and find google.com. And then you need to have something to click on, right? So if I just do this, like, there's nothing to click on. It's just, there's not even a space. There's nothing. It won't even show up. So I have to say, go to Google or click me or whatever you want to say. There's the link. I click on it, but it actually goes there in my browser. I don't want that. Since it's an external link, I probably want to take them to a new tab. So the attribute for that is to add to the end of the href after the quote closes, target equals, and then it's underscore, which is shift dash blank. And that will tell it, make a new tab, make a blank new tab. So if I do it now, my thing is still open and Google is there. Cool. Okay, images. Let's make an image. I'm going to make it up here. Okay, cool Emmet trick. If you don't even start with the angle bracket, you can just say the name of the tag. So if I say img, which is the image tag, and then you hit tab, it will make you one. And it has the attributes already built in. So same thing with anchor tags. If you say a tab, oh, I probably have different libraries in here. Anyway, image source works great. And then you can go find an image. Let's just go find a, I don't know, tempeh sandwich. I don't know, images. So here's a weird sandwich. I can copy the address, and this should work if I paste it in. I think it'll work. What kind of image? Trying to see like JPEG or PNG. It's not really telling me. Let's just see if it works. It might work. Who knows? All right, it works. Cool. So there's that. But what if I want to have, and you should always have the image on your own computer. You can right click on it and say save image as. I still wish I knew what kind of image this was. I'm going to try to guess. I'm going to rename it because that's a terrible long title. I'm going to guess it's a JPEG. And I'm going to go to my sites, to my folder. So I got to clean this up, people. So here's my index. I could just dump it here, but to be more tidy, I'm going to make a folder called images. So now right next to index, I have images. It's highlighted. Now if I say, that's not going to work, JPG, it will save it. And let's see if it is a JPEG. So if I delete this, so I can't just type in sandwich.jpg because index won't be able to find it. I first have to tell the index page, which is where I am, go into the images folder. So I'm going to type images / and there it is, JPEG. So if this doesn't work, it's probably because I'm guessing on the format and it's not. But look at that. It is. Cool. All right. Kind of looks delicious. I'm not a big tempeh fan. Anyway, moving on. So one more HTML tag or tag set to show you is an unordered list. I'm going to put it up here, actually. So UL is the beginning of an unordered list, which is basically like a bullet list. LI is a list item. So item 1, I can make a list of stuff, and it will be a bullet list by default in HTML in a browser. 3. So here's my bullet list. Cool. Those are kind of the basics. Now I want to talk about how everything is a box. But in order to do that, I got to start talking about CSS. So we have so far only written HTML, which is a hypertext markup language. It's not a programming language. It's like a scripting language. Browsers know how to interpret it. It's built into them. And there is a second language that we can use called CSS that will style our page. So right now, our HTML document is using the built-in styles. So if I inspect this, if I go to View, Developer, Developer Tools, this is in Chrome, then I can see all my HTML, and I can actually see that there's like a weird margin attached to my body. If I go to H1, I will see there's also this margin, and is there padding? No, margin there. So things have like margin and padding kind of built in. Also, there's like default fonts. So that's all well and good, but we want a pretty page. So let's start doing some CSS. I'm going to do the thing that you should not do, and then I'm going to show you what you should do. But one way to add style is to just add a style HTML style tag in your file, and that will tell the browser, okay, now I'm going to get some CSS code. So I should understand that it's CSS. So let's say we'll just like for the H1, we'll like give it a color of red. So the way CSS tags work is first it's the tag name without any of the angle brackets. Then it's an opening and closing curly bracket. And then inside that curly bracket is a key value pair of a property and that property's value. So I could say I want my margin and then colon to be something. So like maybe 40 pixels or something. So it's a property and the value of that property. So let's just see what we've got now. We've got this margin of 40 around this, and we've got red for our H1. I'm just going to get rid of this for now. I want to talk about boxes. So most things in HTML are by default boxes that stretch the width of a page. So if I add a border so we can kind of see what's going on, 2 pixels solid black. This is like the shortcut for adding a border. I can see a border around H1. If I refresh, there's my border. As you can see, even though the H1 only has this much text, it's like stretching across the whole page. Same thing goes for paragraphs. Let's see, you can do multiple tags like this. So paragraphs, ULs. Only other thing we have in here is images and anchors. Okay, so just these two. We can also say border 2 pixel solid black. Cool. So all of these are stretched all the way across. I didn't do H2 or H3. That's fine. But I guarantee you they go all the way across. Things that don't are images and links. And actually the list items, I don't believe, go all the way across by default. So if I was to say add to this also the anchor tags and the image tags, we would see that this image has a border, but it doesn't stretch all the way across. Also, this link, it doesn't even go on a new line. So this is because you might want to have an image with like kind of flowing with your text, and you definitely will want to have the option of like a link within your text. So if I was to go down there, grab this link, and I'll just like stick it in the middle of my content, then it will flow with the text, even with the border around it. Now, the thing about this, so there's a display property in CSS, and the default is display block. So this H1 is display block, UL and paragraph are display block. These two are not. But look what happens if I say, you know, I want everything to display block. Now, not only do the paragraph and the unordered list stretch across, but also, I guess the image is weird, but the link does too. So it makes its own line and it stretches all the way across. So we will be playing a lot more with that in a bit. I'm going to keep going. All right, so boxes, right? A lot of times when you are making a site, you want to have, did I do the image? Yeah, okay. You want to have like, everything should be contained in a box, just like in InDesign. When you're laying out a page, you have columns, right? So you have a column, and then inside that you have a block of text, but the column is kind of its own box. Well, the same thing applies to HTML. It's just that you are going to like explicitly like write code to make those boxes happen. So let's make a box that wraps the whole page. And first what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the body a color. So the order that you write your style doesn't matter, but I do like to keep a hierarchy so that like it kind of makes sense. Okay, so body, I'm going to say background dash color is, let's do something nice. Let's do, I don't know, peach puff. Those are all HTML colors that are kind of defined in the browser understands them. Okay, so now if I go to my thing, everything is that color because it inherits the color. I want to have like a kind of content box in the middle. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to go down to the body. So the body is all the visible stuff on the browser. The body basically, I keep going the wrong place. It starts at this top right corner, 0, 0, and it basically goes down. It like kind of default makes enough space for the content down here to the bottom right. That's the body. All this other stuff like is not the display part, but the body is where you display stuff. So inside the body, I'm going to make a div. So I'm going to just type the word div and hit tab. It'll give me a div tag. And I'm going to take it, I'm going to cut the end, and then I'm going to scroll all the way down till I find the other closing body tag, and I'm going to put the closing div right above it. And, you know, I want to kind of keep hierarchy looking good here. So that one worked, but this one didn't. If you select stuff and you want to like change the indentation or outdentation, you can select it and then say command or control square bracket right goes to the right, square bracket left goes to the left. Okay, so now everything's in a div. We can't really see anything yet, but if I say, if you find a div CSS, then make the background color of the div be, let's not do white, let's do azure. That's going to look weird with peach. So now I have a background color of azure, and it like almost covers everything. It's like it doesn't, because this has like this H1 has like a margin that is almost, it's really close to the peach color. Anyway, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to say I want this div to be, I'm just making a little, organizing a little. I want it to only be like 80% of the width of the browser window. And if I do that, I get something like this. It looks terrible, but I'm on the way somewhere. And then there's a cool trick to center it. So you don't ever want to say, oh, it looks like there's like about 200 pixels on either side. You want to use margin auto. And margin auto works almost on everything. Like you think you want to use a line center, but honestly, margin auto is the way to go. So now we've got this. We'll deal with the image size in a minute. And then let's say we want to have like padding in between like the H1, like where the white starts, you know, like a nice padding all around. We can say for this div, give it a padding all the way around of like maybe 60 pixels, which is just shy of an inch. And now we've got this like nice padding around everything. A little bit more here because of that margin on the H1. We could just say, make that margin 0. I'll do maybe a little more of that later. The only thing that's sticking out is this image. Why is it sticking out? Well, it happens that my browser right now is not as wide, or at least this 80% is not as wide as the intrinsic size of this image. So if I right click and I inspect this image, the image is 1200 by 1800. I don't want to put the width and height in here, and I don't want them to be hard width and height because what if it's a different screen size? So for this image, Like, you definitely don't do this. It's not good. If you do it, you want to override it in CSS. So don't do that. My recommendation is that if you have an image, just start with a width of 100%. And then what that does is it says, whatever container I live inside, make me only like 100% of that container. So it'll squeeze itself in. And then there's that nice padding that we added. Difference between padding and margin. Padding, so here's our box, our div. We gave it a padding of 60, so there's padding between basically the border and the content. Let's put a border on it just for fun. Border, let's make it a thick border. I'm going to give it a border of 12 pixels. That's crazy. It's not that big. Okay, so the border represents the frame of a picture. The padding represents the mat board that goes between the frame and the content. So this is like, if you had a photo, all this stuff would be the photo, right? So that's the padding, and the margin is outside the frame. So in this case, our margin is auto because it's figuring out, like, if my box is 80% of the page, then I have this much space, and it'll calculate it even if you shrink and grow the page. Pretty sweet. Percentages are your friend. Okay, so that is kind of the difference between margin and padding. Now, if I inspect this H1, I will see that it has this orange stuff if I hover over it. And over here in the inspect tool, if I look at this box, it'll show me this is what the margin is. This is the border, which we can't see. Well, you can kind of see it if I hover. It's like yellowed. There's no padding. And this is the content box. So if I go in here, I can't override this because it says user agent style sheet, which means it's coming from the browser. But I do have an H1 here that I wrote. So I can say margin 0, and that'll get rid of that margin. Now there's no margin. When you change stuff here, it doesn't change it in your file. So if I refresh this page, it's going to come back. But it's a good way to test out what things might look like. Okay, so what have I forgotten? So this div, what if I want to have like more divs? Then it's going to be super weird because they're all going to be like 80% of the page. What if I want to have like a hero section or a nav section, and I make a div, and I'll just say this is my nav, just for fun. If I do this, then it's going to be super weird because it's going to be 80%. It's going to like when we're doing the styles, we are doing basically anytime you find a div, anytime you find a paragraph, we're not being very specific at all. So like in this case, if we look at our styles, all of these things have the same border. Anything that's an image is going to have it. I'm just going to take that out now. Yeah, there's like everything's going to have a border, right? So how do we make this one more specific? In CSS, you can add a class. And what you do is first you add the class, or vice versa in HTML. So it's the attribute is class equals some value, and then the name of the class. I'm going to use wrapper because it's a common class name for this kind of thing. And then, so that doesn't change anything yet, right? But if I go up here, this is the div that I assigned to be the wrapper. So if I change this from div to dot wrapper, then it'll work. So this is not being affected by the styles that I applied to this. So what's happening here is that CSS recognizes if it's just letters and numbers, like body, H1, paragraph, then it knows this is an HTML tag. If there's a dot in front of it, it knows that it's a class that I have defined. So I'm saying div class wrapper. this might be div class nav. Oops, I missed a quote. I always do that because of the autocomplete. Div class nav, and now I can say, okay, this div has other special features. So let's do that. So I'm just gonna so nothing's changed yet. I just have text in here. So I want to have 2 columns in here. So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna make another div, and underneath it, I'm gonna make another div. Okay, so I'll just say left column, and then right column. Maybe just so I can tell them apart, I'm going to say this class is going to be left. And this class is going to be div class equals right. Okay, so this nav, I want to have 2 columns. So we can see better what's going on. I'm going to say dot left should have a background color of whatever. It's so hard to choose colors. Salmon, like semicolon. The semicolon is important. And then my right, I'm just going to copy paste. Right should have, this is a cool thing. Once you get this little thumbnail color, you can hover over it and then just go hog wild and choose a different color. So I'm going to choose this. You can see it in RGB if you click on this up here. That's the hex value, which is a pair, 3 pairs of numbers or letters. This is the hue, saturation, and lightness. I don't even remember what W stands for. Anyway, yeah, you can change the thing. RGB is fine, whatever. They're all fine. Okay, so now I have 2 boxes, but remember, a div wants to be the full width of the page. So how do I make these go side by side? Okay, I'm going to add dot nav. I'm just going to give it a border so we can see it. 1 pixel solid. Purple. Purple's a good color. Purple gets a bad rap. Okay, so you can kind of see the thin purple line. So if I go in here, so inside wrapper, there's my nav. My div is display block by default, right? So block means it wants to be 100% wide, blah, blah, blah. We are going to change it from display block to display flex. And I'm going to show you what that looks like just by doing it in the browser. Display. So there's another value called display flex. And that will try to flex items the best it can into a single row with however many columns it has room for. These are kind of shrinking down to the size of the content. What if we wanted to stretch them? Well, let's go back to our file. So nav, we're going to say display flex. I do that typo about 5,000 times a day. And then maybe we want both of them to be the same, equal width. So I could put a value in left and then the same value in right. Or I could say, go look in a class called nav, and if you find a div in there, do some stuff to it. So in this case, I can say, I want them to flex basically a ratio of 1 to 1. If you say flex of 1, they'll try to be a ratio of 1 to 1. So now we have a 50-50 column. You can also say 50%, but what if you added a 3rd column? Wouldn't you want it to also try to make its way, be a normal, 33.3%? So sometimes a flex of 1 is where you want to go. What if you want your left to be smaller than your right? Well, you could just add the flex in here. So maybe left flex is a ratio of 1, but right is a ratio of 2 to 1. And then you get something like a 1/3. I think this is a 1/3, right? 2 to 1. Yeah, a 1/3. So that is another way to do it. You can also just say this is 33%. We can do like 0.3, but that's so weird. And then this one is like 66.6%. Also will work. Okie doke. I'm going to pause and think about what else. Oh, we haven't checked anything in. I don't need to pause. Let's stop for a minute and check this in. So let's go to GitHub Desktop. We've been doing, I'm going to get rid of this so I can show you how to. Oh no, we did, right? I showed you. I'm getting confused. Okay, so here's GitHub Desktop, right? We cloned our repository from the internet, and here are all these changes that the GitHub Desktop app has been checking for us. So what we want to do is add something to this field that says summary required. So I'm just going to say like started homepage, right? And then I don't need to do a description. It's not required. You can always add something, but it's not needed. When I say commit to main, what that's doing is it's basically committing a timestamp. It's saving a timestamp to tell me what I did during that commit. So now, I'm in the changes tab. If I go to history, ignore everything else down here because this has been going for a while. But here's what I just checked in. And it's telling me I added a file called index.html and I added this sandwiches file. So that is that. Let's go back to changes. So if I go to GitHub, it's not going to be up there yet. I'm only tracking, like if I do a command R, there's no files here because I've only timestamped it on my computer. On the right-hand side, it says no local changes. What do you want to do? And so this says push commits to the origin remote. Remote in our case is GitHub because it's where we cloned this from. So I'm going to say push origin. It's going to take a little time. And then now if I go to my GitHub repository right here and I hit Command R or I refresh the page, there's all of our stuff. Huzzah! Huzzah! Okay, one more thing and then I will stop talking. I told you this is bad jujus. Don't do this because what if you have 2,000 files? Like, are you going to copy paste your style every time you make a change? You want your styles to be consistent per page. Maybe there's some special, there's going to be special stuff on a page by page basis. I'll show you how to do that. But generally, you want your styles in one central location. So I want to make a new file. So up here, I want to click on my name, make sure it goes in the main directory. I'm going to say new file or Command N or Control N on a PC. And I'm going to say, I want a file called style.css. And this is a .css file. So the browser recognizes this as being all CSS code, meaning no HTML code. It won't understand it. So first, I like to do it this way because it's faster, but I am going to click before the word, before the tag for style, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to the closing tag. I'm going to hold down the shift key. And I'm going to click at the end of this style tag and it selects everything. Then I'm going to say Command X, which is cut, or you can always go to edit cut, but Command X is your friend. That gets rid of it. I'm going to get rid of the extra space. It is in my clipboard. It's waiting for me to paste it. So I'm going to click on style and I'm going to say Command V as in Victor to paste. So see these little red squigglies? They're like, this is not CSS. What are you doing to me? So get rid of that. Go up to the top, get rid of that. And now we have a pretty CSS file. I like how it's like, I want it to be more like indented less. So I'm going to do, I selected everything, Command left square bracket gets it to that close, and then that gets it all the way to the left. Okay, that looks happier for me. Cool, so I did that, great, but like if I go here to my website, now all my styles are gone because I haven't linked to the style file yet. So in order to do that, you want to be in the head of your document because that's where you're linking to other things. It's kind of like the invisible stuff, right? It's like load this file, do this thing, and then load the pretty stuff. So we're going to use Emmet to fill in our link tag. So if I type LINK and tab, it'll default to style sheet because that's the most commonly used one. But check this out. If I delete that and I say LINK and this little thing pops up, if I choose CSS, it'll even guess on the file name. And so right now it's a relationship of style sheet. So it knows, okay, cool, I'm loading some style sheet now. And this is the file name. So now if we go back to our browser, this is our local server 127.0.0.1. Now our styles are back. Cool beans. Oops. I always hit save on the browser. Alrighty. If we wanted to put this in a folder, we would do this. We would right click on the name. I want to make sure this is selected. New folder, CSS. So this, if I drag this, if I just click and hold and drag it in here, move, now it's going to be broken again because it doesn't know. See, broken. It doesn't know where it is anymore. It's like, basically, this is all index.html can see. It knows that there's an images folder. It knows there's a CSS folder, but it has no idea what's in it. So what we need to do is change this to say, go into the CSS folder. And then it automatically says, oh, do you want this file? So you can click on it. And now it will work. Ta-da! A word of caution, you will see in a lot of demos this. Don't ever start with a /. This video is too long. I'll talk about it more, but don't do it. Just always start. This is called a relative link. Always use relative links. So relative to the index page, I want to go into CSS and then find this file. Okay, fonts, and then I will be done. So we're going to go to Google Fonts. There's cool sites that will help you with pairing because sometimes it's just too many decisions. But let's say we want to use Source Sans. And we want to use, let's do 300. You only want to choose the ones that you're going to use because it slows down your browser. And then maybe we'll do like medium. So there's Source Sans. Cool. And then let's find a display font. That'll be my kind of body font. Trending. I don't know. Filter. You can add. They keep changing this. So you used to just be able to click a little box to say, I want all the display fonts. I'll just do the Wheel of Fortune. Ooh, that one. Okay. Ooh, that one's crazy, ridiculous. Let's be ridiculous. Let's see. This one only has one weight of regular 400. Great. So we're going to add that. So while I've been doing this, I don't know if you noticed, but there's this little suitcase up here, and it has a red dot now because there's selected families. And Google Fonts is super cool because it gives you all the code that you need. So there's two ways to link a font. You can link it in the HTML. That's why this is HTML tag. It goes in the header. Or you can link it in your CSS. There's drawbacks to both, but let's do import. So we don't need the style tag. We just need the CSS style. So I'm going to grab the import tag. Either that or if you're lazy or whatever, you can click on copy, but just make sure you get rid of those style tags when you go to your CSS file. And then you always want imports to be the first thing, right? Because you want them to be used within the file. So I'm going to move all the rest of the stuff down and I'm going to paste in import. So let's look at this. URL, https fonts.googleapis.com. And then family, Kenya, and Source Sans, and here's the weights. Cool? So that's the first part, and they give you the second part as well. So here are the specific CSS rules that you want to use to define your fonts. I like to put them in a comment. I haven't talked about comments, but in CSS, a comment is /**, and then you close it with */. Okay, so I'm going to just put a comment in here with the fonts so I have them handy. And you always want to have one kind of default font for everything. So I'm going to use Sans, Source Sans, for everything. So I'm going to put it in the body, and then everything else will inherit it because it's all this like child-parent relationship. So let's see what we got. Cool. So now we have Source Sans. And then for maybe all my headers, I want to do Kenya. So I can do kind of similar to what I did here. I can say if you're in H1, if you're in H2, if you're in H3, or an H4, or an H5, or an H6. Who knows if I'll ever use all 6 of them, but I now have the ability. I will use Kenya for my headers. And now I have this super funktastic website. What if I want so I did light and I did medium, right, for the body. So I could say by default, do a font weight of 300 is what I imported. 300. And then maybe, I don't know, if it's a link, so if it's an anchor tag, make it be font weight of 500. So font weight 500. Cool. So now I've got like a thicker font for links, and I've got like a lighter font for everything else. This is just like a little extra throw in. The colors for anchor tags, you can change that. You can't change it with like a body. You have to change it in its own like CSS. So I need to say color is I don't know. We'll just make it green. Also, let's just get rid of this ugly border around everything. 1, 2. See, this is yellow because there's nothing in here. I might as well just get rid of it. It's complaining that I've defined styles for something, but not, or yeah, you know what I'm saying. I've declared that I'm going to add some styles, but then I never did, so it's complaining. Okay. 47. Whew, gotta go. All right. Thanks for sticking with me. Later. And you know, like you just go back here, make sure you check in stuff. Added more styles and commit to main, push to origin. Now there's a history on your computer, and there's also the files up here, and there's a history somewhere. 28 commits. There's all my histories for this. I have a lot more than you because this has been around. Okay, bye. Oh, no, I'm not going to say goodbye. Forgot one thing. The magic of this name is that I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to make a new tab. I'm going to paste that into a browser and hit enter. And this is the live public version of your homepage. So make it pretty because everyone's looking at it. Just kidding. It'll be pretty hard to find. But it is findable. It's public. But you now have a published website. Congratulations. Okay, really going. Bye.